My name is Elizabeth Hayes. I'm 31 years old. And this is the story of how my so-called family tried to hijack the one thing I had built from scratch, my first home, and how I made sure they'd never forget what happened when they crossed the wrong woman. You'd think blood ties would mean protection, right? Safety. Loyalty. But not in the Hayes family. Not for me. Ever since I was a kid, I played the role of the good one. The reliable niece. The dependable cousin. The girl who helped clean up after the parties, who lent money when people were between jobs, and who opened her tiny apartment to anyone who showed up with a sob story and no rent money. I let it happen. For years. Because I was raised on this twisted idea that family means sacrifice. Even when the family was using you like a doormat. The worst of them? My cousins Chloe and Ethan. Chloe was 29, loud, entitled, and had the personality of a wrecking ball. She strutted into my life 6 months ago with her fake designer suitcase and that sugar-sweet smile that always meant trouble. "I'll just be here a while, Liz," she had chirped, dragging her junk into my 700-square-foot apartment without even asking. She never left. She took over everything, my clothes, my fridge, my mornings. She'd use my expensive skincare like it was hotel shampoo and throw parties in my living room without notice. She once poured out the coffee I made for myself and said, "I'll make a real one, yours tastes like sadness." Ethan wasn't better. He was 35, a musician who hadn't picked up a guitar in 5 years. He'd show up post-breakup, broke, hungry, and between opportunities. He borrowed money like it was Monopoly cash, never paid a cent back. For 10 years, I was their safety net. And they took full advantage. But last month, something changed. After 7 years of juggling 2 jobs, freelancing on the weekends, and living like a monk while everyone around me lived off handouts, I finally made it. I signed a mortgage on a small 2-bedroom house in Carmichael, just outside Sacramento. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't even new. But it was mine. I hadn't told anyone. I wanted to keep it quiet, just for a while, to enjoy the feeling of ownership without the weight of expectation. But the thing about secrets in my family? They never stay buried long. It all came crashing down at Aunt Veronica's 60th birthday party. If you've ever been to one of those family events where everyone's smiling but secretly judging each other's outfits, relationship status, or bank account, you get the vibe. I had barely set down my store-bought salad when I heard Miranda's voice, all smug and syrupy. "So, Lizzie. I heard someone just bought a house." I turned slowly. Miranda was 33, an Instagram influencer with zero actual influence. Next to her stood Vanessa, 36, freshly divorced, again, and treating alimony like a personal victory. "I mean," Miranda continued, flipping her hair, "2 bedrooms is perfect. I've been dying for a change of scenery. And I've been looking for a place too," Vanessa added casually, sipping wine. "You wouldn't mind a little company, right? We could totally help with bills." I blinked. "Wait. What?" Miranda grinned. "I call the front room, it's got better lighting for content. Vanessa needs a quiet room for her writing, you know." I stood there, stunned. My cousins had decided, without my input, that my house was now their new co-living fantasy. "And don't worry about decor," Vanessa added, pulling out her phone. "I already ordered curtains. You can pay for them now. I'll Venmo you, eventually." I stared at her. "You what?" Just then, Aunt Veronica walked over, smiling like a mafia boss about to make an offer you couldn't refuse. "Elizabeth, your mother would be so proud. A home is meant to keep family close, honey. This is your chance to give back." Give back? They had never given me anything. I forced a smile so tight it hurt my jaw. "Sure," I said softly. "Let me handle the arrangements." They all beamed like they had won the lottery. What they didn't realize was, I wasn't the jackpot. I was the storm. That night, after they'd all gone, I pulled out my house documents. Owner, Elizabeth Hayes. I traced the letters with my fingers, heart pounding. I had worked too hard to let these leeches infect the one thing I'd built from nothing. No more guilt. No more silence. I opened my phone and scrolled to the name I hadn't messaged in months, Owen Blake. He was an old college friend, now working in logistics. He once told me, half joking, if you ever need to disappear a body or relocate a building, call me. I typed, Owen. I need a clean storage unit. Somewhere private. Big enough for, let's say, furniture and delusions. 5 minutes later, he called. Are you finally evicting your parasites? Not evicting, I said, voice cold. I'm relocating them. And that's how the plan began. When Owen said he could get things handled discreetly, I believed him. He didn't ask questions. Just texted me back with an address, a gate code, and a digital lease for a 10x5 storage unit about 10 minutes from my new house. Secure, locked, cameras installed, and most importantly, anonymous. Only you and I have access. That was the first domino. And I was ready to knock the rest over. The very next day, the circus started up again. Chloe showed up at my apartment, again unannounced, wearing my sweatshirt and holding a grocery bag full of soy milk and kale. You're welcome, she said like she was some kind of saint. I restocked your fridge. She had also eaten half of it before I could say thanks. Later that day, Vanessa texted me a Pinterest board titled Our New Home Vibe. No joke. Throw pillows, fake marble end tables, neon signs that said good vibes only. It looked like a teenager's dream dorm. Miranda chimed in with a screenshot of a $2,500 couch and a message, you order it, I'll pay you back next month. Pinky promise. I didn't reply. Instead, I quietly opened a new Google Drive folder titled The Truth. I began collecting receipts. Photos of every box they brought over. Screenshots of every message demanding I foot the bill. Voice memos of their casual conversations where they referred to my home as our place. They had no idea I was documenting everything. No idea they were walking straight into a trap. 3 days before move-in, Vanessa showed up with 2 massive suitcases and a standing mirror she slammed against my living room wall. This will go in my room, she said, pulling out her phone. I've already scheduled delivery of a Scandinavian rug. I used your name and address, it was easier. Miranda showed up shortly after with boxes labeled streaming gear, candles, and essential oils. I stayed silent. Watching. Filming. Just let us know when the movers arrive, Miranda said, brushing past me. We'll handle everything. You can chill with wine and watch us work. I smiled and poured myself some water. Inside, I was counting down the hours. That night, I called Owen. I want the truck for Monday morning. Plain. No logos. No chatter. Only you and me know where it's going. Cedar storage, he asked. I nodded. Let them think they're moving in. Let them carry every box with pride. Let them feel like queens. Owen chuckled. You're cold, Elizabeth. No, I replied, voice sharp. I'm finally warm, for the first time in years. When Monday came, Sacramento was still damp from the rain. The air was cool and smelled like new beginnings. At 8 a.m., Vanessa texted, can't wait. We'll be there in 30. Tell the movers to be careful, my rug isn't cheap. At 9 a.m. sharp, the unmarked white truck pulled into my driveway. Owen stepped out, clipboard in hand, playing the role perfectly. I stood by the door, sipping coffee, and watched Miranda and Vanessa load box after box onto the truck. Every time they turned their backs, I snapped more photos. Their grins. Their swagger. Their total delusion. Miranda patted one of the boxes proudly. Scar, can you believe this? Our new chapter. And it's all thanks to you. I nodded. You have no idea. When the last box was loaded, Vanessa came up to me, face beaming. We'll head over to the house now. The truck can follow, no rush. We want to start setting up the rooms. I smiled. See you soon. They drove off in high spirits, convinced they had just pulled off the ultimate free ride. Owen turned to me. All loaded. You ready? I handed him an envelope with the keys to the storage unit and a crisp $100 bill. Tip the driver. He earned it. By noon, I was already halfway through a book in my quiet apartment when Miranda's name started flashing on my phone. I waited until the third call before answering. Hey. Did you reach the house yet? Scarlett, she snapped. Where the hell is the truck? Probably stuck in traffic, I said sweetly. You know Sacramento. 10 minutes later, Vanessa sent me a screenshot of the tracking app. Why is the truck parked at Cedar Storage? Is this some kind of mistake? I took a long sip of coffee and replied, take a wild guess. My phone rang again, Miranda. This time she was screaming. Are you insane? Why is our stuff in a storage unit? You can't do this. We're family. I cut her off. Being family doesn't give you the right to hijack my home. I never invited you. I never agreed to your plans. You moved yourselves in. So I moved your stuff out. Silence. Then chaos. You'll regret this. I'll tell Aunt Veronica. I'll tell everyone what you did. I smiled, opened the folder labeled The Truth, and emailed every piece of evidence I had, voice memos, screenshots, photos of them gleefully hauling boxes. I added one line. If you want to sue, I'll be waiting. An hour later, Miranda texted back, I'll tell Aunt Veronica about this. She'll destroy you in front of the whole family. I chuckled. I hope she tries. Because the moment they dragged my name into the dirt in front of Aunt Veronica and the family, that's when the real reckoning would begin. When Aunt Veronica summons the family, it's not a request. It's a decree. Her living room becomes the courtroom, and she plays judge, jury, and executioner, all under the guise of keeping the family together. Her text came late Tuesday night. Saturday, 3 p.m. Be there. We need to resolve what you've done. No hello. No how are you. Just judgment. Just control. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't walking into a trap, I was walking in with a loaded arsenal of truth. That Saturday, I didn't wear black. I didn't shrink into myself the way I used to. I wore a bold red blazer and heels that clicked like gunfire against the tiled floor of Aunt Veronica's sprawling two-story house. Every relative was there, Uncle Harold with his never-ending sermons, Cousin Angela and her judgmental smirks, even second cousins I hadn't seen in years. Word travels fast when drama's involved. Miranda and Vanessa sat side by side on the long white couch like wounded martyrs. Dressed in muted tones, faces somber, lips pursed. They looked like they'd rehearsed their roles all morning. Aunt Veronica stood tall in the center of the room like she was about to deliver a eulogy. Elizabeth, she began coldly. Let's hear it. Why have you done such disgraceful things to your own blood? To your cousins who have always treated you like a sister? I looked around the room. So many eyes. So many faces I used to fear. Then I smiled. What did I do, Aunt? I simply helped them move. Hired a truck, secured a storage unit, and even paid the first month's fee. That's generosity, no? Gasps rippled through the room. Miranda's face flushed. Vanessa gripped the hem of her dress. That was a setup. Vanessa barked. You tricked us. You lied, Miranda added. That house was supposed to be for family. I took my phone from my pocket and tapped the screen. Let's have a little viewing party, shall we? I airdropped the folder titled The Truth to the TV, and one by one, the evidence lit up the screen. Screenshots of text messages. Miranda sending a $2,500 couch link with "Order now, I'll pay later." Vanessa texting about curtains she already ordered and billed to me. Photos of them hauling boxes with huge smiles. Audio recordings. "Scarlett will cover it, it's easier that way," Miranda had said. The room fell dead silent. Even Aunt Veronica faltered. I looked her in the eye. "You wanted the truth. There it is." For once, her mouth opened and no words came out. I never agreed to let them move in. They decided. Assumed. Took over. Miranda stood, voice trembling. "You're twisting everything." "No," I said calmly. "I'm documenting everything." That's when the unexpected happened. From the back of the room came a voice, steady, slow, aged, but unmistakably strong. "She's right." We all turned. My grandmother, Eleanor Jennings, 78 years old and barely 5 feet tall, stepped forward using her cane like a sword. "Scarlett has endured enough. I've watched her pour her soul into this family while you lot devoured her kindness like vultures." "Mother," Aunt Veronica began, but Grandma silenced her with one sharp look. "You love preaching about family, Veronica. But you only call it family when someone's useful to you. Scarlett doesn't owe you anything." She walked over to me and rested a frail hand on my shoulder. "From now on," Grandma said, "Sunday dinners will be held at Scarlett's new home. But only those who understand respect will be invited." Gasps. Shock. Jaw drops. Miranda's jaw twitched. Vanessa paled. Aunt Veronica's face darkened like thunderclouds. "You're taking her side?" Veronica hissed. Grandma's reply was like a blade. "No. I'm standing with the only one in this family who has earned my respect." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The little girl inside me, who used to cry after family dinners, who felt invisible while being everyone's cleanup crew, she finally stood tall. The meeting ended in bitter silence. The room emptied like a funeral where the wrong person survived. I walked out not just with dignity intact, but with a fire in my chest that burned hotter than ever before. But, as Grandma whispered to me before climbing into her car, "It's not over, sweetheart. Spoiled brats don't give up after just one loss." She was right. 3 days later, I got the email. Subject: legal notice. From a local law firm. Client: Miranda Jennings. The accusations? Unlawful possession. Emotional distress. Damaging family reputation. I didn't panic. I forwarded it to Owen. His reply was simple: "Give me 48 hours." 2 days later, Miranda's lawyer quietly withdrew the case. No explanation. Just a single line: "The client has decided not to pursue the matter further after reviewing the evidence provided." Boom. Victory in silence. But it didn't stop there. Vanessa started posting sad little cryptic Facebook statuses. "It's heartbreaking when the people you love turn cold." Miranda followed suit with Instagram stories of her unpacked boxes and selfies with captions like, "Things that once held memories now dumped in storage like trash." I read every post. Not with anger. But with pity. They were throwing tantrums in a house they never owned. I picked up my phone and did the one thing I should have done years ago. Blocked every number. Deleted every contact. Unfollowed, unsubscribed, unchained. One by one. Click. 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 Aunt Karen. Uncle Harold. Cousin Angela. Gone. All of them. People say blood is thicker than water. Maybe. But I'd rather drink water than drown in blood-soaked manipulation. That Friday night, my house was quiet. I lit candles in my living room. Played jazz on low volume. sipped tea from a mug I had bought with my own money. And when Grandma called just to say, "Proud of you, sweetheart," I finally believed it. Not just that she meant it, but that I deserved it. I wish I could say that after the lawsuit fell apart, things went quiet. That Miranda and Vanessa accepted their defeat, packed up their entitlement, and disappeared into a cloud of guilt and silence. But people like them don't let go of control, they just try to find a new angle. Within days, I began receiving an entirely new wave of guilt-laced messages from the extended family. First came Aunt Karen. "Lizabeth, I understand boundaries, but Miranda and Vanessa are hurting. Maybe you could have handled it more privately?" Then Uncle Harold. "Family is forever. Don't throw it all away over a few misunderstandings." And of course, the worst came from Cousin Angela. "You've made your point. But publicly humiliating your own cousins? That's just cruel." Publicly? I hadn't posted a single word. Meanwhile, Miranda was busy uploading filtered sob stories on Instagram like she was the face of a charity for homeless influencers. Every day, there were new stories, blurry shots of their boxed-up belongings, dramatic captions like, "Some people build walls, not homes." Or, "Betrayed by the one person we thought we could count on." It would have been laughable if it wasn't so pathetic. But then, something happened. Friday afternoon, I was setting up a new bookshelf, an actual moment of peace, when I got a message from someone I never expected. Nathan Walsh. Nathan was my neighbor. 34, kind eyes, quiet, and always polite. He owned the used bookstore 2 blocks down, one of those rare spots filled with secondhand novels and the scent of old pages and coffee. When Chloe once accidentally flooded my kitchen with a broken pipe, Nathan came over with tools and fixed it without asking for anything in return. We hadn't spoken in weeks, months even. But his message was simple. Beautiful day today. New house, new beginnings. Lunch? I stared at it for a long moment. After everything, after years of being everyone's crutch, after letting people walk all over me, I had almost forgotten what kindness without strings looked like. I replied. Noon. Don't forget iced coffee. We met at a tiny cafe 15 minutes from my house. No drama, no noise, just a quiet corner booth, soft sunlight, and the clinking of silverware. He placed the coffee in front of me, smiling gently. You look different today, Lizabeth. How so? Like someone who's finally breathing after holding their breath for too long. I actually laughed. Breathing, yes. For the first time, in my own air. We talked about the bookstore, his new shipment of classic horror novels, my plans for a lavender garden in the backyard. For once, I didn't have to defend myself or perform for anyone's expectations. And for the first time in months, my laughter wasn't forced. That night, I returned home carrying a small bag of flower pots Nathan insisted on gifting me. He said they were starter blooms, a new beginning. As I stepped through the wooden gate, a strange feeling washed over me. The house wasn't just a house anymore. It was mine. Not just on paper. But in truth. In energy. In silence. Every corner, every shadow, every square inch finally felt safe. No voices barking from the kitchen. No perfumes I didn't buy. No passive-aggressive notes left on the fridge. Just peace. I placed the pots in the sunniest part of the backyard and took a step back to admire them. They weren't perfect, some petals were still closed, one leaf had already wilted, but they were mine. Planted on my terms. Later that evening, I was reorganizing my spice rack, a luxury I never had time for before, when my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Grandma. I saw Miranda's latest Facebook monologue. You'd think she got evicted from a palace, not her cousin's apartment. I chuckled. She's performing for sympathy. Let her exhaust herself. Grandma didn't laugh. You did good, Lizabeth. But this won't be the end. Girls like them, they don't fight fair. They wait until people forget. And then they slither back in. I knew that. Deep down, I'd always known. So I did what I should have done long ago, I made it official. I went online and updated my home security account. Changed every password. Reset every camera. Replaced the lock on my mailbox. Installed a fingerprint lock on the front door. No more spare keys hidden under doormats. No more emergency access excuses. They wanted boundaries? They got walls. Real ones. That Sunday, the house was filled, not with freeloaders or forced family, but with something warmer. Lily, my best friend, came over with fresh bread and a bottle of wine. Grandma showed up with her secret recipe lasagna, still warm and bubbling under foil. We played cards, laughed about old stories, and passed around garlic knots like communion wafers. At one point, Lily looked around and said, "This feels like family." A real one. I nodded. Because it is. Grandma raised her glass. To self-respect. The only inheritance that truly matters. That night, I finally felt full, not with guilt or resentment or anxiety, but with peace. And I realized something as I poured another glass of wine and stared at the flickering candlelight. I had spent years trying to earn my place in a family that saw me as a utility. But now? I had reclaimed my power. My voice. My space. They weren't just my cousins. They were the lesson. And this house? This house was the answer. Monday morning started the way every morning should. Warm sunlight spilled in through the east-facing window. The smell of fresh coffee lingered in the air, my coffee, brewed the way I liked it, not poured down the sink by some freeloading cousin with a superiority complex. No noise. No voices demanding breakfast. No perfume from Vanessa wafting down the hallway. Just silence. Stillness. Freedom. It was the first time I truly felt alone in the best possible way. And then my phone rang. Owen. Miranda's lawyer confirmed, officially dropped. Vanessa's cleaning up her social media like it's a crime scene. I think you broke their little empire. I grinned into my mug. They should have picked a better target. They picked the same one they always had. They just didn't realize she had teeth now. Before I could reply, another notification popped up on my phone. Nathan Walsh, lemon tarts delivered. Check your doorstep. I opened the front door and there it was, a small white bakery box with a ribbon tied around it. I didn't need grand gestures. Not after spending years being used. But that small kindness? It cracked something in me I didn't even know was still fragile. For so long, my life had been a revolving door of takers, relatives who gave nothing but took everything. They mistook kindness for weakness. Boundaries for betrayal. And now, after reclaiming everything piece by piece, someone was showing up, not to take, but to give. It wasn't love yet. It wasn't anything romantic. But it was safe. And that was more than I had ever had. I spent the rest of the day rearranging my bookshelf by color, not because I had to, but because I could. And while I was halfway through alphabetizing my fiction section, the inevitable happened. Aunt Veronica called. I didn't pick up. So she left a voicemail. Lizabeth. This is beneath you. You embarrassed the entire family. You made your cousins the laughingstock of the neighborhood. I didn't raise you to be vindictive. I laughed out loud. She didn't raise me at all. She supervised. She commanded. She manipulated. But she never loved. Still, I saved the voicemail. Just in case. Minutes later, a text came through. Aunt Veronica, you may have a house now, but you'll be alone forever. No family will want to associate with someone who turns on her own. That one hit a little deeper. Not because I believed it, but because there was a time I would have. There was a time when that guilt would have eaten me alive. When I would have begged forgiveness just to be let back into the fold. When I would have mistaken abuse for acceptance. But not anymore. Instead of replying, I opened the truth folder once more, just to remind myself how far I'd come. All those photos, screenshots, receipts. My digital armor. My memory, archived in high resolution. They thought the battle was about space. It wasn't. It was about control. And I had finally taken mine back. That afternoon, Lily stopped by with a bag of groceries. Thought you might like to make your first real dinner here. We cooked like we used to in college, badly, messily, joyfully. Tomato sauce ended up on the floor. We overcooked the garlic bread. But the laughter? That was perfect. She turned to me mid-bite and asked, "Do you regret any of it?" I didn't need time to think. No. And I meant it. They had pushed me too far for too long. And this time, I had drawn a line and painted it in neon. After she left, I sat by the window and watched the sun set over my tiny backyard. The new lavender pots were doing better than expected. A few buds had opened. Maybe they were late bloomers. Just like me. The next morning, I woke to find a letter taped to my front door. Not an envelope, just a single folded sheet of lined paper with handwriting I recognized instantly. Miranda. The handwriting looked shaky, like it had been written through clenched teeth. Lizabeth, we were wrong. But you didn't have to go that far. All you had to do was say something. You humiliated us. You've changed. We hope you're happy in your little house. Enjoy your peace while it lasts. Just don't forget who was there before your mortgage made you feel powerful. No apology. No ownership. Just another manipulation disguised as a confession. I didn't tear it up. I filed it away in the folder labeled Final Attempts. Because I knew the game wasn't over. Girls like Miranda and Vanessa don't stop when you say no, they just wait for you to blink. But I wasn't blinking anymore. I had built my life back with steady hands. With patience. With intention. And if they thought one letter would shake that foundation, they didn't know me at all. That evening, Grandma came over for tea. She wore a scarf I hadn't seen in years, navy blue with embroidered lilies. She noticed me looking and said quietly, "Your mother gave it to me before she passed. Said it reminded her of you." We sat in the living room in silence for a while, the lamp casting a soft glow over the walls. Finally, she spoke. "You know, Lizzie, this house isn't your revenge." I blinked. "What?" "It's your freedom. Don't let their voices echo in these rooms. Let it be your sanctuary, not your battlefield." I nodded slowly. Tears threatened, but I kept them in check. "You did what had to be done," she continued. "But don't let it define you. You're more than this fight." And in that moment, I knew she was right. I had won. Not with rage. Not with vengeance. But with boundaries. And silence. And proof. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. And that's something Miranda and Vanessa could never take away. I thought it would end with the lawsuit. I thought the social media drama, the guilt-tripping texts, the family tribunal disguised as Sunday dinner, all of it, would fizzle once I made my stand. But manipulators don't just go away. They evolve. It started with whispers. People I hadn't spoken to in years, distant relatives, old family friends, began reaching out. Heard about what happened. Thought you were different. Family's messy, but you didn't have to go nuclear. Veronica says you've been struggling emotionally? There it was. The new angle. If they couldn't paint me as mean, they'd paint me as unstable. They wanted to make my boundaries look like breakdowns. And the worst part? Some people believed them. It stung. Not because I needed anyone's approval, but but because for the first time in my life, I had the courage to protect myself, and they still found a way to twist it. I vented to Lily over lunch one afternoon. "You know what hurts the most?" I asked. "They act like I burned down a house. All I did was build my own and lock the door." Lily sipped her drink, then set it down gently. "That's the part they can't stand. You're not theirs to use anymore." It was true. I wasn't the fallback plan. The emotional sponge. The human couch they could crash on when life got inconvenient. But it was still lonely sometimes. The silence that once felt peaceful began to feel empty. Not always. Just in the gaps. That's when Nathan showed up again. One Friday evening, he knocked on my door, not with pastries this time, but with a toolkit. "Figured you could use a second pair of hands for that shelf you mentioned." I blinked. "You remembered?" He just shrugged. "You're not that easy to forget." We spent an hour installing a floating bookshelf in the hallway. He measured everything twice, like it was some sacred ritual. I realized halfway through that I hadn't had a man in my home since Ethan crashed for just a few nights 3 years ago and stayed for 3 months. But this felt different. No posturing. No expectations. Just help. Just presence. After we finished, I offered him tea. He accepted. We sat in the kitchen with the windows cracked open and talked about absolutely nothing important: books, childhood pets, favorite sandwich fillings. And still, it felt more honest than every family meeting I'd ever been forced into. As he was leaving, he paused at the doorway. "I know I'm probably stepping over a line here," he said slowly, "but I've seen the way your family treats you. And I just want to say what you did. That was brave. Most people don't have the guts to say enough." I didn't reply right away. I couldn't. My throat was tight. He smiled, softer this time. "Anyway, if you ever want help building that garden, you know where to find me." And just like that, he was gone. That night, I sat by the window, staring out at the empty backyard, the space I had once imagined would be overrun with my cousins' decor and their Instagrammable chaos. Now, it was quiet. Just dirt and promise. It didn't look like much. But it was mine. The next morning, I decided to make that promise real. I went to the local nursery and picked out the first few plants: lavender, rosemary, jasmine. Fragrant. Resilient. Quietly powerful. Just like I wanted to be. As I paid at the register, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Voicemail. I didn't recognize the voice at first. It was shaky, quiet. But then I heard the name. Vanessa. Elizabeth. "I'm not calling to fight. I just want to talk. No tricks. No moves. Just talk. Please. I think I understand now. What we did. What I did. If you ever want to meet, I'll be at Central Park on Sunday. Near the fountain. Noon." I stared at the screen. Was it real? A trap? A last-ditch attempt at manipulation? Or was it actually something else? I didn't decide right away. But Sunday came fast. And that morning, after watering my new plants and brewing my coffee, I found myself driving to Central Park. I kept my distance at first. Watched from across the walkway. She was there. Alone. Sitting on the stone bench near the fountain, fidgeting with her phone. No camera crew. No friend with a secret recording. Just Vanessa. I approached slowly. She stood the moment she saw me. "Hey," she said. Her voice was hoarse. I didn't sit. Not yet. I didn't come here to be guilt, I warned. I know. I didn't come to be gaslit either. I know. There was a pause. Then she spoke. You were right. The words were so quiet I almost missed them. You were right to cut us off. We took advantage. We didn't even ask. We just assumed you'd give like always. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say it. Out loud. I searched her face for signs of performative regret. But there weren't any. Her eyes were red. Her mouth twitched like she was forcing herself not to cry. Still, I was cautious. Why now? She looked away. Because Miranda's not done. She's talking to some podcaster. Wants to tell her side. Paint you as cruel. Says if she controls the narrative, maybe people will believe she was the one betrayed. I exhaled slowly. Of course she is. Vanessa finally looked up at me. I'm not asking you to trust me. Just protect yourself. And know that not all of us are still playing games. I stared at her a long moment. Then nodded once. She left without another word. And I sat down on the bench, feeling the weight of it all. There would always be Mirandas in this world. People who confuse access with ownership. Who believe your kindness is their entitlement. Who weaponize family like it's a shield against accountability. But now I had more than proof. I had clarity. And thanks to Vanessa's warning, I had time. Time to prepare for the next wave. Because this story wasn't ending quietly. But I was ready. 3 days after my talk with Vanessa, the storm finally hit. It began as a trickle, an obscure lifestyle podcast episode titled When Boundaries Become Betrayal. Hosted by a woman who practically used manufactured empathy. The guest? A former influencer turned family advocate, otherwise known as Miranda. The first 20 minutes were fluff, sob stories about tight-knit family bonds and being blindsided by jealousy. Then came the hit. Miranda, voice trembling just enough to sound credible, claimed she and Vanessa were invited to live in my house. That they had invested in furniture, made plans, only to be violently shut out and have their belongings confiscated. The host gasped in all the right places. I didn't listen to the whole thing. I didn't have to. The damage was already in motion. Comment sections blew up. Listeners speculated, shared, reposted. Miranda's Instagram, revived from its pity party hiatus, began showcasing healing after betrayal posts. Yoga selfies. Quotes about forgiveness. Subtle digs wrapped in spiritual hashtags. But the worst? She posted a blurred photo of my front door with the caption, "Where it all fell apart. But where I found clarity." That crossed a line. Not just invasion of privacy. Harassment. I called Owen. She's gone public, I said flatly. Used my house in her mess. I saw. I already sent a cease and desist. If she doesn't pull the content in 24 hours, we go legal, again. You think she'll stop? Owen didn't hesitate. No. But she'll wish she had. I hung up and walked into my backyard, lavender brushing against my fingertips. The plants had bloomed beautifully, fragrant and full. They didn't grow because someone told them to. They bloomed because no one was trampling them anymore. That evening, I got an idea. A final move. Not cruel. Not petty. Just truth. The next morning, I uploaded a video to my YouTube account. No production. No music. Just me. One take. I sat on my couch, looked directly into the camera, and spoke. Hi. My name is Lizabeth Hayes. Some of you may have heard things about me lately. Half-truths. Misinformation. Even lies. This is my side, not to seek sympathy, but to set the record straight. I explained the freeloading. The forced assumptions. The evidence I collected. The lawsuit that was dropped after the truth surfaced. And finally, the podcast episode designed to manipulate public opinion. I ended with this. Boundaries are not betrayal. Silence is not weakness. And protecting yourself from exploitation doesn't make you cruel, it makes you free. Within hours, it went viral. Thousands of views. Tens of thousands of comments. She's speaking for every black sheep who finally said enough. My own cousin did this to me. Thank you, Elizabeth, for standing your ground. Family doesn't mean access, it means respect. Miranda didn't post again for 2 weeks. When she did, it was a carefully worded apology, vague, insincere, probably lawyer-approved. The podcast episode was removed quietly. No announcement. No follow-up. But the damage to her brand? Permanent. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the warning. 2 days later, I was planting basil when Grandma showed up unannounced, this time knocking politely. She carried a small tin box in her hands. "What's this?" I asked. She opened it to reveal a stack of letters. Old. Yellowed. Neatly bundled in ribbon. "Your mother's," she said. From her 20s. Before she passed. My breath caught. I had never seen her handwriting before. Grandma smiled softly. "She wrote a lot about you. Even then. Said you'd grow into a woman who knew how to fight without raising her voice. Who wouldn't flinch when people tried to take what was hers." I blinked hard. "You never showed me these. You weren't ready to believe it yet." She hugged me tighter than ever before, then whispered. "You're not the black sheep, Elizabeth. You're the shepherd. The one who finally said, 'Not this time.'" After she left, I sat under the backyard tree and read every word my mother had written. It was like she knew this battle was coming. Like she'd seen this version of me long before I had the courage to become her. That night, Nathan came over with lemon tarts, again. We didn't talk about Miranda. Or Vanessa. Or the Jennings family circus. We just talked. About books. About planting citrus trees. About the sound lavender makes when the breeze runs through it just right. And when he kissed me for the first time, it wasn't a grand gesture. It was quiet. Honest. Free of weight. Just like everything I had rebuilt. Weeks passed. Then months. The family, for the most part, went silent. The ones who mattered, Lily, Grandma, even a few distant cousins who finally saw the truth, stayed. The rest? Blocked, filtered, archived. My house remained mine. Not just the structure, but the energy. No one barged in. No one demanded. No one assumed. And sometimes, when I lit a candle or brewed coffee or rearranged a shelf just because I wanted to, I smiled. Because this piece? I earned it. No one gave it to me. I fought for it. And I'd never give it up again. Scarlett's story isn't just about revenge, it's about reclamation. About learning that protecting your peace is not selfish. That family doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity. As her grandmother said, you're not the black sheep. You're the shepherd. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever had to walk away from people who only showed up to take, leave a comment below. Share your truth. You're not alone. Subscribe to Revenge Echoes for more real, raw, and unforgettable stories where justice finds a voice, and sometimes, silence becomes the loudest answer.